Hello, my name is Muhammad Ishamuddin bin Muhammad Noor. My number metric is BA24160807. Today I want to present about interpersonal communication and relation theory. First, introduction. According to Rogers and Kincaid Kangara 2010, communication can be defined as a process in which two or more individuals engage in the exchange of information, ultimately leading to a deep understanding between them. Interpersonal communication and relation theory explore how people interact in exchange information and build relationship. This theory focuses on the processes of communication, interaction patterns, and factors that influence interpersonal connections. Next, literature review. First, social penetration theory and interpersonal relationship. The social penetration theory, developed by Altman and Taylor, explains how interpersonal relationships develop through gradual self-disclosure. It compares relationship development to feeling layers of an onion, where individuals move from superficial to deeper, more intimate levels of communication. 2. Interpersonal communication and communication climate and organization. Interpersonal communication in organization refer to the exchange of information, ideas, and emotion between individuals to achieve shared goals. Activate interpersonal communication foster collaboration, trust, and understanding among employees. Communication climate is the emotional tone or environment of communication with an organization. A positive climate is characterized by openness, mutual respect, and constructive feedback, while a negative climate involves defensiveness, mistrust, and poor interaction. Okay, 3 is process, order, and function of communication theory in research. First, process. Communication theory serves a framework to the analyze and understand how communication occurs. It involves identifying partners, structures, and contexts that shape interaction, such as encoding, transmitting, and decoding messages. Okay. Order communication theory help organize research by providing systematic approach to studying communication phenomena. The guide researchers in formulating hypotheses, choose method, and interpreting data.
Interpersonal communication and relation theories are a continuous process involving two or more persons from the same or different environment to changing messages. The process involves sharing ideas, thoughts, and feelings to another person. Interpersonal communication is different from other platforms of communication because it involves close physical interaction and requires immediate response. For example, sharing stories with your loved one is considered interpersonal communication because it involves sharing stories, ideas, and feelings. The article A Global Analysis of Emoji Usage study global patterns in emoji usage through a large-scale analysis of Twitter data. The study aims to understand how emojis are used across different countries and their relationship to economic conditions. The data were using only X applications. The dataset consists of 12.5 million tweets and 17.5 million tweets that contains the use of emoji. Data analysis was used in this study in order to collect data. The research has collected the data from X application to get the data, which resulted in total of 30 million tweets. The article for interpersonal relationship and communication in romantic relationship versus digitization of life shows the effect of digitization on romantic relationship and highlights the challenge and opportunity it brings to interpersonal communication. Modes of communication such as social media, trust and intimacy, digital challenges such as miscommunication, and verbal and non-verbal communication. The research aligns with today's style of relationship among younger generation. The Midnight Club was an infamous street racing group based in Japan that became famous during the late 1980 and 1990. The club is famous for its high-speed races, which took place primarily on the expressways and highways around Tokyo, particularly in the Tokyo Bay area, known by the local as Wangan. What set the difference between the Midnight Club and other car club in its club is its strict code of conduct. Mode of communication because they use secret code messages in newspaper. Context of communication because the coded message in newspaper contains the specific period of time for the club's meeting and racings.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad bin Arifin, matrix number BA24110066, and today I will tell about my literature review, that is cognitive dissonance theory and its relevance to current social issue. This literature is about concept understanding human behavior, that is human psychology, communication, and social influence in decision making. As we know, in this modern era where the internet have been used more frequently, but people still struggle in make a right decision making because of the overload information. This overload information will bring confusion and make people more stressed, anger, and frustration. This cognition dissonance from change human behavior that they're not honest with their opinion because of people. My identifier variable is this literature has used top tier publication as the data conducting the review. We also have identified independent variable, that is outcome of cognitive dissonance, and for dependable variable is the factor that cause cognitive dissonance. And the second literature is network theory based on analysis of risk interaction in large engineering project. And this literature is about how they use network theory to analyze or detect any risk in large engineering project. This theory is more effective than the traditional one, where the traditional not give consistent risk, but network theory not only they analyze high risk, they also can detect the small risk. Additionally, they explain key findings that help them to make a decision and identify the risk. And my identify variable is, in this literature we have identify variable that is risk, because this literature is also known as nodes in risk network. The methodology they use is City University Hong Kong project number 9380058 as a reference. And my third literature review, that is using the theory of planned behavior to explore environmental behavior intention in the workplace. This article is explained about how they study worker behavior at the workplace. At the same time, they explain how the theory of planned behavior work in the circle of worker. This theory is about to explain how they should start to by give attention for doing some behavior. Additionally, this theory have three core, that is construct of attitude, subjective norms, and perceived behavior. This study is more focusing on predict behavioral intention. They do that behavior by highlight the positive of doing that behavior. And the identified variable in this article is dependable variable, that is attention of for environment behavior, and for independable is theory of planned behavior construct. Moreover, the metaphor they use in this article is qualitative.
Literature review: President-elect Donald Trump interview with Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker. In this interview, President-elect Donald Trump shared his plans and opinions on key issues. He discusses economics, immigration, foreign policy, and concern about the justice system after the January 6 Capitol incident. Trump also supported using tariffs to address the $35 trillion American on national debt and criticizes Biden's administration for higher inflation and energy policies after 2020. He reinforced his strict immigration stance, including mass deportation and challenging birthright citizenship. Trump also prioritized America's interests and restoring its former greatness. On foreign policy, he suggested limiting U.S. support for NATO if financial commitments of 2% of the GDP aren't met, and expresses a desire to negotiate peace in Ukraine. He claimed conflict like Ukraine-Russia and Israel-Hamas wouldn't have happened if he had been re-elected in 2020, criticizing Biden for failing to resolve this crisis. Identified variable: in this interview, we saw how Trump's style of combative interview really took place, on which often direct influences how people perceive his stance on national issues such as tariffs and economic policies. We can also see how emotional intelligence affects Trump's communication, especially when balancing strong rhetoric with audience expectation. This article uses framing theory. Trump's second term and the Global South: prospect and perils. January 2025 marked the start of Trump's second term, expected to impact global cooperation, especially in the Southern Hemisphere. Some countries see these opportunities in his likely retreat from organizations like the United Nations and the World Trade Organization, while others see challenges. This shift could push nations to align themselves with powers like Russia or China, risking their independence. Trump's focus on countering China's economic influence may force countries to choose sides, clashing with the Global South preferences of cooperation. Cuts to US-funded aid programs in education and health could also leave gaps that are hard to fill by other countries. His stance on climate change is unlikely to change, as seen in his past withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. This could harm the Global South, which relies on international support to handle climate challenges. Identified variables: in this article, we saw several effects of Trump's second term towards the Global South country. This possible outcome will result in millions, or in fact billions, of US aid possibly cut by Trump's anti-multilateralist stance. This shows that United States is trying to isolate themselves from global alliances while still keeping an eye on potential enemies like Russia and China. We can see how Trump's policies will focus on rebuilding its nation post the COVID pandemic and how it'll affect the global countries. Literature review. What is interpersonal communication and why is it important? This article explains interpersonal communication as the exchange of information, ideas, feelings, and intention through messages and signals. It highlights four main principles. Communication is inescapable, irreversible, complicated, and contextual, helping us to understand how we connect it in our personal and workplace settings. It also covers four more types of interpersonal communication: verbal, nonverbal, listening, and writing, showing how we can use these different methods to interact daily. However, there are barriers like technical jargon, inconsistent cues, wrong mediums, external factors, and poor relationship can create challenges. Overall, the article helps us to understand interpersonal communication and how to use it effectively to improve skills like communication, creativity, emotional intelligence, and critical thinking. Identified variables. In this article, we know that interpersonal communication focuses on active listening, verbal and nonverbal communication, empathy, and also emotional intelligence to foster trust, connection, and understanding. This shows how important ways of communication can affect our own daily lives. We can also see that there are several challenges that can lead to disastrous outcome if it is not handled properly.
The title of the article is Verbal Communication, Definition, Characteristic, Types, and Principles. So this article explains that verbal communication involves the use of words, orally or in writing to convey a message. This is characterized by clarity, good structure, and use of contextual language. There are two main types of verbal communication: verbal, which is conversation, and written, which is document. This article also emphasizes the principles of verbal communication, such as a correct use of language, logical order of messages, and the ability to actively listen to ensure smooth and effective communication. Identified variables in this article is independent variables such as a clarity of the language used in the communication. Language clarity refers to the ability to convey a message with the use of words that are easy to understand, accurate, and direct. Next, the dependent variables can also be identified in this article, which is the message understanding. Message comprehension refers to the extent to which the recipient is able to interpret and digest the meaning and the discussant wants to convey. Second article is Personality of Cognitive Dissonance. The article of cognitive dissonance theory explains how individuals experience psychological discomfort when there are an inconsistency between their beliefs, attitudes, and actions. This theory, introduced by Leon Festinger, states that individuals will seek to reduce this dissonance by changing their beliefs, behaviors, or rationalizing their actions. The article also emphasizes that cognitive dissonance affects many aspects of life, from decision making, from the way individuals evaluate themselves in the face of mental conflict. And identified variables from the second article is first, independent variables such as inconsistencies between beliefs and actions. This happens when someone does something that is contrary to their values, beliefs, or attitude. In addition, the variables found in the article are dependent variables such as a level of psychological discomfort. This level of psychological discomfort refers to the intensity of uncomfortable feelings or stress experienced by individuals as a result of conflicts between their beliefs, values, or actions. The third article is nonverbal communication: definition, classification, function, and purpose. In conclusion, this article on nonverbal communication explains that nonverbal communication involves the use of elements such as facial expressions, body movements, use of space and voice intonation to convey messages without words. This communication plays an important role in enriching the meaning of messages, expressing emotions, and helping to overcome deficiencies in verbal communication. This aspect is important in building better social relationships and avoiding misunderstandings in daily interactions. The identified variables in the last article is among the variables found in the article are independent variables such as body motion or known as kinesis. This aspect of body movement is a form of non-verbal communication that involves body movements such as hand gestures, facial expressions, and body positions to convey meaning without words. Also, another variable found in this article is the vocal aspect. This often refers to nonverbal communication elements in the voice used to convey messages, such as the intonation of the voice used, the speed of speech, and the strength of the voice used in delivering the message. Conceptualize 5 key variables you had identified from your lecture review and were included in your theoretical framework. So the first identified variables is interpersonal communication theory. This is the core foundation or independent variable of the framework. It highlights how communication occurs between individuals to exchange information effectively. The second identified variable is information. Information is a crucial variable that appears twice in the framework. It represents the data or message that is shared or communicated between individuals or group. The third identified variable is exchange information. This variable signifies the dynamic process of transferring or sharing information between individuals or systems, leading to communication flows. The fourth identified variables in this theoretical framework is public. Public represents the recipients or target audience involved in the communication process. It highlights the role of the broader community in interpreting and spreading information. The fifth or the last variable identified is mass media. This variable points to the medium or channel used to disseminate information and communication to a wider audience, making it an essential factor for larger-scale communication.